Go Hawks. No, just go Hawks. So we're in Judges chapter 3 today. Before we go into Judges, I want to go back to Joshua chapter 24. So as we look through the book of Judges, we're going to get a lot of repeated things. And so I want to kind of go back and forth between the history of the Israelites and what we're seeing in the passage that we're in. So we'll look at Joshua chapter 24, verses 6 through 13. I brought your fathers out of Egypt, and you came to the sea. And Egypt pursued your fathers with chariots and horsemen to the Red Sea. But when they cried out to the Lord, he put darkness between you and the Egyptians, and brought the sea upon them and covered them. And your own eyes saw what I did in Egypt. And you lived in the wilderness for a long time. Then I brought you into the land of the Amorites, who lived beyond the Jordan, and they fought with you. And I gave them into your hand. And you took possession of their land when I destroyed them before you. Then Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, arose and fought against Israel. And he sent and summoned Balaam, the son of Beor, to curse you. But I was not willing to listen to Balaam. So he had to bless you, and I delivered you from his hand. You crossed the Jordan and came to Jericho. And the citizens of Jericho fought against you, and the Amorite and Perizzite, and the Canaanite and the Hittite, and the Girgashite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite. Thus I gave them into your hand. Then I sent the hornet before you, and it drove out the 2 kings of the Amorites before you, but not by your sword or your bow. I gave you the land which you had not labored, and the cities which you had not built, and you have lived in them. You are eating of the vineyards and olive groves which you did not plant. So at this point, Moses and Joshua have both passed away. We talked about that last week. Both of them gave a memorable farewell speech reminding the Israelites that God's promise was twofold. That one, God would promise that they would be able to inhabit the promised land. They would be able to live in this city flowing with milk and honey. As we see, they didn't build. The cities they didn't build. They got to reap crops that they didn't sow. And then we've also talked about they actually, in some cases, had the people stay in there, and they got to have them to tend the lands and to do things for them as well. But the flip side of that promise, we know God told them in Joshua, we looked last week, and said that if they intermarry, if they associate with any of the peoples of the lands that they're going to overtake, that God would not continue to drive out those nations, and they would become a trap for the Israelites. They would become a snare, is what the Bible says. So if you look at this, God could have handled this very differently. Delivering the Israelites from Egypt all the way to the promised land, he could have done it in a very different way. He could have taken them the straight path from Egypt to Canaan, which would have been a lot shorter journey. It would have taken probably just a matter of a few weeks. He could have destroyed all the different tribes before the Israelites got there. He could have had them driven out or killed or however he wanted to do it, but he didn't do that. God could have really shown out and given the Israelites a perfect journey, but he didn't. He didn't put them on a 747 and fly them to the promised land. And he also didn't put a wall around them. The book talks about God didn't put this wall around them to where once they got there, nobody else was going to come in. They weren't going to live by themselves. They still had to live in the world that was around them. So instead of taking them down the perfect journey, taking them down that straight road and destroying everybody in front of them, he took them a long way around. They entered the promised land through Jericho, through the back entrance. Basically, they went down and came around the back entrance and came in the back way. They had to go to war. They had to fight to get the people out. Fight different countries over and over again to take over their lands. So instead of putting his people in a confined space in this city that's guarded with walls and where everybody else can't get in, he allowed them to be tempted. And that's what we saw with Moses and Joshua warning the Israelites that you are going to be tempted. You're going to go into these lands. You're going to live among these people for some period of time. And if you don't follow God, they're going to become a temptation to you. They're going to become a stumbling block for you. So God allowed that because the Israelites, we see time and time again, became associated with these people. We see that they married people in the countries that they came over and overtook. So do you think, looking back at it, do you think it was God's expectation for the Israelites to fail? Did he expect them to?
They always have.
They always have, but what did he want for them? He didn't want them to, did he? He wanted them to succeed. He expected them, his expectations were for them to turn away and to look to him for guidance for what they were going to do. He expected them to succeed. That was the goal. It's always God's goal for our lives. He expects us to succeed. He gives us a path to follow, and he expects us to follow that path so that we can succeed. But to your point, the Israelites failed time and time again. So it's the same for us today as it was for them 3,000 years ago. God plops us down in the middle of a sinful world. So we're in the middle of a world where sin is all around us. Even if we surround ourselves by people in the church, we still have sin all around us. It's just part of the world that we live in. We don't have those walls up around us, blocking us from the temptations, just as the Israelites didn't have walls, blocking others from coming in and tempting them. So the book points out, it reminds us to be thankful for those trials. It references Colossians chapter 1, verse 24, which says, I now rejoice in my sufferings for you, and fill up in my flesh what is lacking in the afflictions of Christ, for the sake of his body, which is the church. So if you really think about it, if our lives were nothing but blue skies and rainbows and sandy beaches or rustic cabins in the mountain, whatever your choice is, we wouldn't really have or recognize that need for God. We wouldn't recognize our blessings because we wouldn't have anything negative to contrast those blessings. So I saw something on Facebook this week that I thought fit perfectly in the lesson. It's a picture. It's got two different pictures. It's got your plan and God's plan. And so the picture with your plan shows a man on a bicycle, and he's going up this slightly inclined road. It's not very long to the finish line. And so that's our plan. Our plan is for everything to go smooth. And it's got a picture of God's plan right below it, where the man is much smaller because it's a much longer journey. And then it's got all kinds of valleys, and it's got rocks in the middle that they got to get over. And they get back up finally to the top, and then they go back down into a valley and get back to walk over a bridge. And then the next one they get back up, and they have to come back down and go through a lake. So they have to figure out how to get across the water. There's all these obstacles. The next one has storms. It has a rain cloud with storms coming in. And that's the thing right before you get to the finish line. So I thought it was a really good visual, and it referenced James chapter 1, verses 2 through 4. It says, consider it all joy when you encounter various trials, because the testing of your faith produces endurance, so that you may be lacking in nothing. And that's how we want our lives to go. We want our lives to run smooth. We want to sit there on the couch and eating our potato chips, or if you're me, eating your Oreos and your Cadbury eggs, and then get up and run a marathon the next day without training for it. That's how we want. That's what our plan is. That's what our expectations are. But we know that our plan typically is not what works out. Similarly, spiritually, we want God to bless us with all the fruits of the Spirit that we read about in the Word, without having to roll up our sleeves and get dirty, planting the seeds and helping ourselves and others grow as Christians. Just like God promised the Israelites this land flowing with milk and honey, He's promised us that home in heaven with Him. Just like the Israelites, we can't expect the journey to be easy. We have to expect there to be valleys and hills and storms and stumbling blocks along the way as we walk through this world that is not our own. We've got to remember that our goal, our home is in heaven. It's not here on earth. So the example that I thought about was Google Maps. If you look at Street View in Google Maps, if you've seen the Street View where you grab the little man, and you go pop him down on the street, and you can see images of the street that you're on. So our lives, when we look at our lives, we look at our lives from that street view. We look at it with what we can see with our vision just right there, visually, right around us. But God's got the map view. You pull up on your phone and you see the whole map. You see the traffic everywhere. So the example I thought about was God's taking us on a journey to Chattanooga, but He sent us over Sup Creek Mountain. And we're sitting there complaining about the winding roads. We're complaining about the incline. Our ears are popping when we go up, popping when we come down. But what we don't see is that fatal wreck on 24. What we don't see is that 41 is just washed down in the Tennessee River. We're never going to make it if we go that way, right? So God has this view of our lives from beginning to end. He sees what's coming. He sees what's ahead of us. And we just have to trust in His plan and recognize that our plans are always simple. They're always that smooth little, barely inclined, no issues, no worries to get to the finish line. And that's just not how it works. Any comments before we get into passage and Judges? Any thoughts? We're going to read just through the passages in the book today. Judges chapter 3, verses 1 through 11. Now these are the nations which the Lord left, that He might test Israel by them, that is, all who had not known any of the war in Canaan. This was only so the generations of the children of Israel might be taught to know war, at least those who had not formerly known it. Namely, 5 lords of the Philistines, all the Canaanites, and the Sidonians, and the Hittites, who dwelt in Mount Lebanon, from Mount Baal-Hermon to the entrance of Hamath. And they were left, that He might test Israel by them, to know whether they would obey the commandments of the Lord, which He commanded their fathers by the hand of Moses. Thus the children of Israel dwelt among the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, and the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. And they took their daughters to be their wives, and gave their daughters to their sons, and they served their gods. So the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. They forgot the Lord their God, and served the Baals and the Asherahs. Therefore the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and He sold them into the hand of Cushan-Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia. And the children of Israel served the king for 8 years. When the children of Israel cried out loud to the Lord raised up a deliverer to the children of Israel, who delivered them, Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he judged Israel. He went out to war, and the Lord delivered the Israelites from the king of Mesopotamia into his hand. And his hand prevailed over the king of Mesopotamia. So the land had rest for 40 years, and then Othniel, son of Kenaz, died. So we see here in chapter 3, again, another one of the warnings that Moses and Joshua gave the Israelites, not just to not worship their gods, but don't intermarry, don't associate with them, don't tie your lives into their lives, don't yoke yourselves together with these people who are not God's people, because they're going to become a stumbling block. So we see the Israelites do exactly what God told them specifically not to do. And we know they didn't have all that many commands as far as if they're taking over the land, things not to do with these people. It's basically don't serve their gods, don't hang out with them, and don't intermarry with them. And so those were the things that as we read through, we see, those are the things that make God so angry, because there were so few things that He told them that He directed them not to do. So the Israelites came in, it says they dwelt among the Canaanites and all the other peoples of the land. The men took wives from the other lands, the women married men, their fathers gave them away in marriage. So it's not just guys being guys and going and seeing a pretty girl and courting a girl. It's also fathers not living up to what God expects of them with their daughters. Fathers giving their daughters away to these other men, these other nations, not being the men that God expected them to be. Again, we don't see God put the Israelites in isolation when he sent them into the promised land. He doesn't put us in isolation today either. He wants us to do what Jesus tells us in Matthew chapter 5. He wants us to be that light of the world. He wants us to be the light sitting on top of the hill, showing the love of God to all those around us. So they're seeing us, and they're seeing his light through us, instead of us going in and picking up their sins and becoming more like them. We're supposed to be the salt of the earth, preserving our generation and the generations to come in the ways of the Lord, preserving them from being spoiled by the temptations of this flesh that Satan throws at us every day. Another thing he gave the Israelites that made it easier for them to fall into sin, he gave them freedom of choice. And he gives us freedom of choice still today. So we have a choice on whether or not we follow the ways of Jesus, we follow what he teaches us, or we follow the sin of this earth. The Israelites made choices that put them back into slavery, basically. It doesn't say that in detail, but basically they went back into slavery for 8 years in their own promised land. The land that God delivered them to, they were there, they finally made it, and they still were in slavery for 80 years. The part we didn't read, they actually go into slavery again for 18 more years after Othniel dies, because they fall back into sin. So God's not going to make our decisions for us. He's given us the Word, he's given us Scripture to be that guide for our lives. But he's not forcing us to conform to the world. He gives us a choice, and he expects us to make our own decision to follow him. His expectations are high, just like they were high with the Israelites. And so we need to meet his expectations by following what the Word says to do. But just like the Israelites, sometimes we make good choices, sometimes we make bad choices. So I have a short lesson today. I'm going to close my part with Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. We'll open up the discussion. Therefore I urge you, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living and holy sacrifice, acceptable to God, which is your spiritual service of worship. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect. Anybody have any thoughts or discussions?
Cory, the Israelites were just like people in the United States. When they were 8 years under the rule of someone else and they had forgotten God, when they hit the bottom of the valley, that's when they turned to God. I'm working on a documentary now, Mine 21. Some of you may have heard of it, but I'm working with some people from the University of South out of Swanee, and we're trying to get it long enough to put on TV. And one of the professors asked me, well, how did the communities in the area cope with that disaster that we had in 1982? I said, well, just like we have in years past. The generation of Pearl Harbor that will always be with the people that lived in those days. And very few people are alive today that even remember the day of Pearl Harbor. They turned to God during that time. Then we go on up, and you remember the year of the assassination of President Kennedy. The nation was just in a sad condition. Where did people turn? They turned to God. The most recent one, 9/11. It takes tragedy for people to really turn to God and to accept him for what he wants us to be. And I said, the people in this area, that was our tragedy. And we coped with it by turning to God. And then just like always, it fades away, just like the people of Israel, and we forget God until the next tragedy. So what's tragedy next? Is it going to be someone in your family? Is it going to be a nationwide tragedy? Is it going to be a local one? We don't know that. But I guarantee you, when that tragedy comes, people will turn back to God, just like the people of Israel.
It's a lot harder to see as we read through it because we see such small little pieces of this big, long span of hundreds and thousands of years. I think it's hard to see that it doesn't just happen overnight. Israelites don't just turn away from God after they come back to Him, and the next day they go back and start worshiping these other gods. And they're just like us today. They're of the flesh, they're in the flesh, and they have temptations just like we do. Eventually, those temptations are what they start giving into, and then one generation to the next, it gets worse and worse until finally they're so far away from God, and it's just hard to understand how that happens. Anybody else have any thoughts before we close? Would you care to listen first?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day that you give us. Father, we thank you for your word. It helps us understand that, Father, when we get to these rough places in life, that there are reasons for it, and that you can use these to strengthen us, Father, to make us closer to you. Father, we thank you for your word, that we can read and we can see how you dealt with the children of Israel, the Old Testament, and how you deal with us today. Very different. It's still a conditional thing, that you expect us to love you and to obey you. And your Father, forgive us of our sins. We fall short of your glory so many times. Father, I pray that you will give us wisdom as we walk, to look for your ways, not to try to do it on our own. Thank you so much for Jesus, for his willingness to come and to do the sacrifice